Members of council, if you can please take your seats. This meeting is now resumed. If I can ask members to please rise. Please rise for a moment of silence. And during this time, remember the following persons who have passed away: John Cam, Mary Gilberti Thornton, thank you. Members of council, we will now review and confirm the order paper. There are 45 items left on the agenda, including 26 member motions. City Council will consider member motions at 2 p.m. Members, should we complete the rest of the agenda before that time, I will seek the will of council to consider member motions before 2. I will now take the release of polls. Please put your name under request to question staff. Councillor Cressy.
Thank you, Speaker. On page 3, item TE 11.2, 540 to 544 King Street and 1 to 11 Morrison Street, zoning bylaw amendment application, a supplementary report from staff. I can move those recommendations, and I have an amendment to include provisions within the Section 37 around construction management and improvements to the school. And so with the supplementary report and that amendment, I can move it.
Yes. Okay. On the screen, all in favor? Carried. Item is amended. All right. So all those in favor of adopting the order paper, recorded vote.
Councillor Cressy, please. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Mayor Tory, when you're seated, please.
We're just adopting the order paper. Okay.
Motion to adopt the order paper carries unanimously, 16 in favor.
Okay, so we'll go to the, on page 2, EX 11.17. Councillor Matlow, your name is there. What's that? What's the reason? Oh, okay, because we just adopted the order paper. Okay, what do you have?
Thanks. I haven't had a sip of that coffee in front of me yet. So I'd like to begin with, on page 2, IE 10.12, Eglinton Connect Streetscape Improvements, and I have a motion to add to that.
So this is on page 2, IE 10.12, Eglinton Connect Streetscape Improvements. You have a motion?
And then there's a motion, yeah.
Which one is that, Josh?
IE.
The motion is on the screen.
Okay, I'm being asked to continue holding it.
Pardon?
I've just been asked to continue holding it.
Okay.
Okay, so then I've got another one that I can release, GL 10.
What page?
Same page 2, GL 10.14, update on cross-jurisdictional action plan for bars, restaurants, and nightclubs.
You're just releasing?
Yeah.
Okay, on page 2, GL 10.14. Recorded vote on that. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bradford, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 17 in favor.
Thank you. Councillor Matlow.
I'm just looking for, just because it's, could I get your assistance to direct me to, oh, here it is, page 2, EC 10.8, Senior Services and Long-Term Care Implementation Plan and Update.
Can
Let
you
me-
speak? We can't hear
What?
you.
Pardon me, sorry. Page 2.
Soft-spoken.
Page 2, EC 10.8, if I may just express my gratitude for Paul and all the staff who have taken this so seriously and put so much effort into helping us arrive at the stage that we're at. And I'd like to release it.
Okay, on page 2, EC 10.8. All in favor?
Oh, Councillor Thompson. would like a
Recorded.
recorded vote.
Oh, sorry, Councillor Thompson, you wanted to hold it down? Oh, recorded?
The item is adopted unanimously, 17 in favor.
Thank you. So we'll now go to page 2, EX 11.17, Operating Variance Report. Councillor Perks, you held the item down. Questions to staff? Okay.
Thank you, Speaker. Looking at the variance report, I'm looking at some of the departmental explanations on page 5. For court services, it says that we're going to have a 10.3 net favorable and gives a number of reasons, among them lower than expected honoraria at interpretive services and payments to the province. Is this part of a long-term trend, or is this a one-off? Like, is this just an unexpected thing, or is it something we've been observing every year?
Through the speaker to Councillor. Hello. This is was not an expected trend for this year. We've had a lower than expected ticket issuance in the City of Toronto, and that has resulted in lower interpreter costs and adjudicative costs in the courts. And we've also had fewer disputes of parking penalties through the administrative penalty system, which is good news. That is a new program, and we're still establishing trends in that program.
So part of it's the administrative penalties, but some of it's just fewer tickets being issued. This is maybe tied to the dispute we're having with the Toronto Police Service about how much enforcement they do. Is that related?
I can't speak to the enforcement agency's activities. Our court services program has no authority over.
No, I'm not asking. I'm just saying,
enforcement.
but it's tied to the fact that fewer moving violation tickets are being issued.
There are fewer tickets being filed with the courts from more than one enforcement agency.
Thank you. To the CFO, now that we're moving to, sorry, Councillor Ainsley. Sorry. Given that the next year's budget is going to be the first time that we do actual to budget instead of budget to budget, and we've heard that there's a one-time blip that wasn't part of a long-term trend, how do we handle the fact that the actual has this variance that's not something that's going to be ongoing?
Through the speaker, when we look at actual results, we'll be looking at a trend. So we don't just take 1 year in isolation. We'll be actually looking at 3 to 4 years to determine whether or not there's a smoothing, whether there's any anomalies that need to be considered. So those will be taken into consideration. So one-time blips don't necessarily have an impact.
So in the review of court services, there will be some attention paid to the fact that this is something that happened on a one-time basis.
So we will look at the historical information to determine if it's a 1 year incident or whether or not it has happened in prior years.
Okay. For fire services, again, there's a positive variance, this time tied to extra revenue from an increase in false alarms. Good morning.
Through the speaker, the incidents in false alarms, currently the city's practice is to record revenues when the revenues are received, not when invoiced. And my understanding is late in 2018, there was a concerted effort made to catch up and pursue false alarms, large volumes of false alarms that had not been yet invoiced, and those cash receipts are only coming in 2019.
And again, the same question. So when we're comparing actuals to budget, we will take into account that this is a one-time thing.
What we will do is, in actual fact, better match our experience. And as you are probably very well aware, fire services actually keeps track of the number and volume of false alarms. We'll look at the trend of the false alarms and then the recovery amounts associated with it.
Okay, thank you. Those are my questions. I can release the item too.
Thank you. Any further questions? Okay. So on the item, all in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor Cressy, please. Thank you.
Councillor Crawford, please. Councillor Cole.
Councillor Fletcher, please. And Councillor Matlow, when you're seated, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 18 in favor.
Okay, our next item is on page 2, EX 11.24, relocation of the Etobicoke Civic Center. Councillor Holliday, questions to staff?
I do not have any, Madam Speaker. I have a motion. I'm hoping, I did send a revised one a few minutes ago. I'm hoping we've got that ready.
Okay, does anybody else have questions to staff?
No, I'm fine with this now that it's been amended.
Okay, so the motion hasn't been drafted up yet, so.
Really?
Well,
Still fixing it.
it was just given to staff,
Okay,
so we'll have to skip through it.
that's fine.
Our next item is, pardon? Oh, so our next item is page 2, GL 10.4. Deputy Mayor Denzel Minawong held it down. Now, he called my office this morning. He's going to be a little late because he's had a family emergency, so we'll skip over that one. Page 2, IE 10.12, Eglinton Connects. So Councillor Matlow has circulated the motion. Do we have any questions? You're fine? Okay, so Councillor Matlow,
So I move the motion.
okay? You just want to move it? Yeah, okay. Okay, so everyone has that motion? IE 10.4, IE 10.12, Eglinton Connects. On the amendment, all in favor? All in favor? Carried. Oh, Councillor Pasternak, you want a recorded vote? Okay, recorded vote. Yeah. You need to speak a little louder, because I didn't hear you.
Councillor Bradford, please. Councillor Holliday. Councillor Fletcher, when you're seated, please.
The amendment is adopted unanimously, 17 in favor.
Item as amended, all in favor, carried. So the next item is on page 2, PH 11.7, Councillor Bailao is not here. Okay, we'll hold that down. Well, I don't know. Does anybody know if she's here? Okay, well, somebody needs to get her up. Okay, let's go to the next one. Page 2, PH 11.9, affordable rental housing opportunity for 833 Broadview Avenue. Councillor Fletcher, you held the item down. Do you have questions?
Yes, but I have questions to the Affordable Housing Office, Housing Secretariat.
Are they not here? Can we get staff down?
Yeah, so we'll hold that and wait.
Okay, we're going to hold the whole agenda down. Councillor Bailao, we're at your item. We're at your item. The one you held down for PH 11.7, Community Housing Partnership Renewal.
That had questions on it. not
Pardon?
me. I released it. There was somebody else that I thought had questions on it.
Who else had questions on this?
Councillor Holiday just wanted a recorded vote.
You're fine with the question? Okay, so you just want to move it? Recorded. See, this is the problem. We're going back and forth.
The
People are
community-
holding items down. They have questions and, okay, so it's on
Carla?
PH 11.7. The Community Housing Partnership Renewal Program. It's being released, so recorded vote. Well, I thought so too.
Councillor Perks, please. Mayor Tory. And Councillor Fillion, thank you.
So can we get staff down here from housing?
Councillor Mello, please. Councillor Thompson, please.
Councillor Wong Tam, when you're seated, please.
The item is adopted 18-1.
So are we getting staff down from housing? Okay. Do we have Councillor Holiday's motion ready? Where's Councillor Cressy? Okay, if I can ask members of council to please come to the council chambers. There are items that are being held by members of council and they're not here. Let's do it.
It's the last day.
Yeah.
Just plow through.
Yeah.
Just keep.
So if you're not in the council chambers, we're just going to release the items. Okay, Councillor Cressy. Okay, Councillor Cressy, page 3, T 11.9. You held the item down. Do you have questions to staff?
Speaker, we are still working with staff at the moment on an amendment related to this, and so I would prefer, if possible, to continue to hold it down. It is joined with a new business item on page 4.
Well, it seems like we're not ready to continue this council meeting today. Well, page 3, T 11.23, Gerard Planning Study. Councillor Fletcher, are you ready with that one?
Well, you're not going to be surprised when I say no. Just because I had added affordable housing in at some point. Now when I'm really looking at it, it's not there. So I just want to
So you're not
make
ready?
sure that that is now clearly in the terms of reference, and
you-
it should be, and it's not there.
So you're not ready?
That's correct. I'm not ready.
Page 3. Okay, can I have, please? Please? Like, I don't know what we're doing today. Nobody is ready to deal with the items. Like, this is, okay, we'll go to the next one. Councillor Holliday, I hope you're ready. Where am I now? Page 3, T 11.35. Okay, so I don't know what we're doing here today. Like, okay, this is, you know, there's a real problem here. We have a real problem this morning. No,
And we can go back to the top of page 2. He can also do Etobicoke Civic Center.
Councillor Holliday? Page 2, EX 11.24, Etobicoke Civic Center. Are you ready?
I am, Madam Speaker.
Okay.
I'll read it very slowly.
Can I have attention to all members of council, please? No, I know, but nobody's paying attention this morning.
We are.
Okay, Councillor Holliday.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. If I may request that the motion be displayed. There's 3 parts to the motion. It's a report request. As we know, there's a report request built into the motion that's before us. I'm going to ask for 3 additional things. The first is, on the next report back, we have an option that we can sever out the community center, the child care, and the library, because I can't predict what the situation will be going forward on the next steps. And I am concerned that the community could face a delay in access to these particular facilities that are currently bound. So just making sure that the option is built into the report. The second is taking a closer look at the designs to see if we can be more economical in that design and more efficient. And the third is always giving consideration to cost risks.
It's not quick. I have questions of staff.
Well, we're at the item.
Okay, I'll ask.
Okay,
I'll ask the councillor.
okay,
Most certainly.
yes.
And so I believe that these are helpful and in the interest of the council and public to make sure that we preserve options going forward because this is a complicated process and it takes many years to work through.
Okay, so we have questions for you. Councillor Fletcher,
Put the
clarification.
motion back up, please. Just want to ask on C, are you suggesting that somehow there are not good controls on procurement and execution when we're building something here at the city?
No, certainly not. I just would like those options included in the report. If we go back to the discussion we had on the Gardiner Expressway a few years ago, I distinctly remember standing in the chamber talking about procurement options. And one of the things we could consider is front-end loading the risk of the construction of that public works, you know, performance bonds, those types of things, in order to manage the cost controls. This is a very large endeavor. It's a large building, and I think I'd like to hear about that.
And are you suggesting that it be a substandard design and just modular, or are you looking to have quite a great project there? It appears to me that B, modular, standardized design options so that we have kind of a cookie-cutter, brusque-looking building rather than a lovely new anchor for a brand-new region.
Well,
I'm
again,
concerned about that.
as we know, the report before us tells us that the financials in this entire transaction are tenuous. And that is, my concern is if there are escalating costs, because the costs change over time, We don't want to see the entire business case fall off the table. And I'd like to make sure that staff have a breadth of options that they can address in the design of this building. And if there are opportunities to include modularity or some standard components of the building that would reduce both the capital cost and the operating cost, I think it's prudent that we give them that permission to give consideration to those options.
And are you willing to not have a library, a community center, and a child care at this site?
I have big concerns in not having these particular facilities because they are built into other plans.
And is
I
there
think
funds
that
for those currently?
There,
Deputy?
as we know in the report before us, there are funds, and I'm thinking in particular towards the community center. That is part of the facilities master plan. And what I would like to do is give staff the option to decouple these in any future reports if that's what needs to be done. And in other words, what I don't want to do is hang up the creation of a community center should the timeline for the Etobicoke Civic Center increase in length. And I think the community expects that.
I don't see where that said if that needs to be done.
It says include options to sever and accelerate plans. So again, it's an option, it'll be an option before council. Hey, it would be great if everything was delivered as one particular piece as planned, but I'm thinking years into the future, and the community is concerned about access to the community center.
So you would want to have those all built out even though they're dependent on the development?
Well, I think we need to know about that when this report comes back in 2021.
To know about it.
Yeah, what I don't want to see is a report in 2021 that pushes the ECC project out further and thus delays the community center. So I'm saying to staff, if they have to bring that report to us, that they've got the option to decouple these projects.
And have you been told that that's not on?
That was your last question. Okay, Councillor Fletcher to speak.
I support 1 and A and C, but I'm not going to hamstring this design from being a spectacular location.
How do I get
The Etobicoke Civic Center moving, I believe, along with the school board to create a brand-new civic location in Etobicoke. And I don't want pressure to start at the beginning, to simply have a modular, standardized design. We have beautiful buildings in the City of Toronto. I can look at the Scarborough Civic Center. It's spectacular, Mariama building. This is a beautiful building. We should not now start having boxes, and I think we should rely on Creatio and the CEO, the Deputy City Manager of Corporate Services, to do that. I understand it's for consideration, but I know where this is going. Well, it comes back and we're going to shave this and shave that and put a box with a couple of windows in it. I think Etobicoke actually deserves more than this and if they need to come back and do that, that's fine. But starting out and instructing them to go and do that, I think that's a very poor direction, and I will not be supporting that.
Okay, thank you. Do we have any further speakers? Okay, so we have the amendment by Councillor Holliday. Put it on the screen. Separately? Okay. Okay, on B, recorded vote.
Oops, okay. Part B of the motion does not carry. The vote is 9-11.
Okay, so on the remainder, pardon? Yes, on the balance of the motion, recorded vote.
The balance of the motion is adopted unanimously, 20 in favor.
Okay, so Councillor Fletcher, we do have housing here now, so, oh, sorry. Item is amended, all in favor, carried. So now we do have housing, so we'll go to page 2, PH 11.9. Councillor Fletcher, questions to staff.
Thank you. I do have a motion I'll be putting up shortly. On this particular, this is a site that has a number of things going on. It's got the parking authority owns one building, and there's a developer owns another building. And this has been going for how many years? Maybe 3, 4?
Through the chair, Councillor, yes, for a number of years, going on 4.
Going on to 4 years. And in my attempt to ensure that we have some affordable housing here, you've managed to work with Create TO and who else in order to get a floor that would essentially be co-op housing?
Through the chair, we've managed to work with Create TO, the Toronto Parking...
I'm having trouble hearing.
The Toronto Parking Authority, Create TO, the developer, as well as my office to secure 16 units of affordable housing.
So this would be, Mr. Casale's here from Create TO. So in this, there'd be some parking because it was bought originally as a parking lot underground for that business area, and then the development with...
I'll defer through the chair to Joe Casale from Create TO, and he can describe to you the deal.
Yes, so the development consists of an underground parking garage along with a mid-rise building that is approximately 80 units in total, of which the city is going to receive a floor that will be affordable housing. We would repurchase that floor back at cost, so no profit to the developer. So we sell for market value and we get a floor back at cost.
And the parking authority said they'd still like some parking there. And the housing have said 16 units is good. Apparently this is thought to be, there's a planning study there, and we may have to go a floor above that planning study. But Mr. Linton, that's from 2016 or 15. Would you consider that an old planning study? It's been referenced as an old planning study.
It's through the chair, it's a 2016 planning study.
So you consider that
old?
old?
It's from 2016.
I'm asking if the planning department considers that an old
It's a recently adopted planning study.
Recently adopted planning study.
2016.
What would you call old? How many years would something
Probably
have?
more than 5 years old.
More than 5 would be old. So we're in the ballpark of recent and in, let's say, in use as a planning study.
Yes.
And the if some members of the community and others have suggested that this should maybe be a 10 or 12-story building. If that was the case, would this be able to proceed given all of the negotiations that have gone on so far? Would we actually?
In terms of the developer being able to increase the size of the building, if City Council so wanted, they would be happy to increase the size of the building. But our
this is to have 4 floors of affordable, not developer.
So our consultations with planning and with housing, we've been able to, I'll say, maximize the financial contribution of the city.
I'm going to ask Mr. Gadden, is 4 floors of affordable housing possible here at this site?
Through the chair, no, it is not.
No, it is not.
It is absolutely not.
We're maxed out where we are.
We are indeed.
How tall would that building have to be in order to have 4 floors of affordable housing?
It would be estimated to be around 12 stories, and coming in at 7 stories, we think we've maximized it within this location.
You don't have enough money to put into this project to increase the number of stories, do you?
At the current time, no. City Council does not have an account.
What would the cost of 4 stories be?
Well, you'd be in the range of, I'm just going to say off the top, around $16 million.
$16 million. And
That's
right
correct.
now, we're, with a small contribution, really, we're even. So we'd have to look for $16 more million.
Through the chair, for a project that's been 4 years in the making, you either go ahead now or you look to do something else.
Go back to the drawing board and try to find the 16.
That's correct.
And do you think the community understands clearly how projects get put together and pro formas and where we would have to get, was anybody aware that it would cost an extra $16 million when they were talking about just add more floors?
That information had not been made public to the community.
So probably I should make that clear, now that you've made that clear. It's a $16 million extra, and you don't have that right now.
Okay, that was your last question.
Fine, thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Perks, question.
Yes, I have a question to Mr. Gadden. Mr. Gadden, Councillor Grimes and I were just going over the Christmas lists that we're preparing for our families to tell us where to shop and so on. We were wondering, where did you get that jacket?
Well, Councillor Perks, it actually comes from Councillor Robinson's ward.
Thank you very much.
Councillor Grimes?
Speaker. My question is for Mr. Joe Casali over there. Joe, the word on the street, say it ain't true. Is it true that you may be retiring? This could be your last real estate deal with the city?
Yes.
Is it true?
That's correct.
Thanks for your service, Joe. You've been awesome. Thank you.
Okay, I think that's it for the questions. Councillor Fletcher to speak.
Yes, I do have that motion there, Speaker. There it is there. To review the Broadview Site and Area Specific Policy 509 to introduce policy that supports the inclusion of affordable housing in new developments in the context of minor adjustments to built form and/or density standards while maintaining the overall direction of the planning for Broadview Avenue. And City Council requests the Chief Planner and Executive Director City Planning to advance a city-initiated official plan amendment in the context of an application 838 Broadview to support the addition of the 16 units or the affordable units. So I just want to quickly speak to this, and because Mr. Casali's last meeting and Mr. Gadden's last meeting, and they have come up with very long, difficult negotiations to put these two pieces of property together. If this was simply a Toronto Parking Authority piece of land, it might look different, but it's not. It's half developer, half Toronto Parking Authority, and we have been working on that now for a year, since October 22nd, 2018, to add affordable housing in. And it's not been easy, but it should work at 16 units, which I'm hoping, and I believe the report says we'll put out for an RFP, but for co-op units, there's a lot of co-ops there. Somebody needs to manage that, and they can. This context, this would update that planning study a little bit, and I'm glad the Chief Planner was very clear. This isn't an old study. It is still a current study, but as we're going to see in the Carla planning study, I've asked to have affordable housing added in to the planning studies, and I think that we should do that in every planning study in the City of Toronto. We have to have every track open to achieve as much affordable housing as possible. So I'm very happy to move this forward. It's been a year. I hope that anybody watching understands, and some of the advocates that are there, the Housing Now advocates, the CHFT advocates, understand that this is what we're able to do given the funds and the restrictions that we have on Broadview. I think if we can do this as many times as possible, particularly where we have that land to bring in, this is a very small piece, that we will just incrementally add to affordable housing throughout the city. So I'd like to really thank Sean Gadden, Joe Casali, for just staying with this to get us to this particular point. And I'd like to ask for a recorded vote on this, please.
Okay. Recorded vote. Yeah. It's on the screen.
Councillor Barlow, when you're seated, please.
The amendment is adopted unanimously, 20 in favor.
Item is amended. All in favor? Carried. So Councillor Cressy, are you ready for page 3, T 11.9?
This is just emailed in, the final amendment. I doubt that clerks have had time to prepare it, so in a couple minutes I'll be ready.
Councillor Fletcher, are you ready for T 11.23?
Getting a amendment.
Pardon? Okay, on page 3, T 11.35, residential on-street parking status update. Who was it that held it down? Councillor Bradford or Councillor Holliday? Oh, but I thought somebody else.
No, I kept the hold.
Okay, Councillor Perks, we're at the item.
Yes, and Councillor Holliday's listed as having questions.
Oh, sorry, I didn't see his name up there. Councillor Holliday, questions?
Can we give the staff just a moment to
Yeah, okay.
switch over?
Ready? Okay, Councillor Holliday.
Thanks, Madam Speaker. So if I understand this report right, so the item correctly, there's a proposal to modify our process. And I wondered if you could recap very quickly for Council what it is the process is to have a street converted to on-street parking where there is not on-street parking. I know there's a public process in this, and I wondered if you could just recap for Council just briefly what it is we do.
Through the Speaker, the current process to license a street under the residential permit parking program under the current provisions of the municipal code is, number one, we are required to be in receipt of a petition signed by 25% of the households on the street or the block of the street in question. Once that provision is satisfied, it allows us to move to the next part, which is polling. The bylaw calls for polling to occur under the provisions of the harmonized polling bylaw, where ballots are mailed out to everyone on the street or the block of the street in question that are 18 years of age or older. Now, we need at least 25% of those ballots to be returned. Of the ballots returned, we're looking for a clear majority of 50% plus one. If that's achieved, then we're able to go to Community Council to request to submit a report for approval to actually install the permit parking.
Thank you. Is it fair to say that the installation of permit parking on a street where there is none today changes the look and feel of the street or changes the function and potentially affects the rights of the citizens that live on that street? In other words, it's a big deal.
Through the Speaker, I think it certainly changes the look and feel. It certainly changes the function of the street.
Function.
It also makes some impacts in terms of the ability to easily maintain the street, especially in snow-related emergencies, or just to general maintenance of the street.
And if somebody owns a car, it certainly affects their way of life. They have to think about parking perhaps in a different way.
I think it would be better to say it affects their way of life rather than it impacts their rights.
Fair enough. Would it affect their finances? They got to pay for something differently. It could cost them more.
I think that the financial implications of permit parking or on-site parking are decisions that are made when people purchase a home.
Understood, but there is a difference though. Like you'd have to start paying for a permit. if permits were implemented on the street, if you parked your vehicle on the street at all.
Yes, that's accurate. I think the cost of permit parking, as we are exploring, is actually a pretty good deal for most people.
Understood.
In terms of how to store a car in the city.
So at the end of the day, though, this is a significant change, and council has had and maintained a process which is consultative in nature. It goes back to the citizens. It asks them, through a first and initial petition process, if there's even some interest on the street to launch this, because you don't want to go on a wild goose chase if nobody's interested. So that petition shows a substantive amount of interest that requires additional investment, which would be the polling. And then the polling is the bar that community council would consider as to whether or not the majority of people want the parking on the street. Is that fair to say, like a synopsis of the process?
I think that's the process. I think part of the challenges that we found, though, is that the results of those polls don't necessarily reflect, like we don't get a lot of response to those polls typically, and so we have questioned what we might bring forward as a more robust measure.
You're looking at parking in general and going to come back and give council some advice on that.
Yes, we are. Residential curb space.
But in the interim, though, I mean, councillors are experienced at this. We give thought to polls all the time. We have to add a lens to them and interpret them.
Correct.
But we do that at community council all the time. Okay, and finally, in the Toronto and East York area, there are a number of streets that already have on-street parking, but there are some holdouts. There are some streets and some sections, I looked at the map, where there is no on-street parking. And so the proposal before us is to just implement the change. Just without the polling and all those considerations, just do it.
That's what we were asked to look at, yes. The three very specific things we were asked to look at. Waiving polling is one of them, looking at the boundaries is another. And
has there been any advice to vary from our process? Is there anything wrong with our process right now?
Well, as I mentioned, we have not brought anything back to council to contemplate a change to our process, so that's why we would like to bring back later in 2020 a change to contemplate that, because we do believe, while it is a robust process that's been going on for some time, there's potential to look at that residential curb space as more of a citywide resource.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Perks, questions?
Thank you. Is there a polling process to create a new parking zone?
Through the speaker, no, there is no process currently.
So the way it's too bad Councillor Holliday didn't hear that. Could you repeat the answer? Is there a polling process to create a new zone?
No, there is not.
So if we want to create a new zone, the only way to do it is what is in this report.
The current process to create a zone is to work with the area councillor to determine the boundaries of the area. Once that's done, then the reporting is required at community council, then final approval is required at city council to amend the Schedule B of the bylaw that lists the areas, the permit areas.
And that is literally what is being done for parts of Toronto East York Community Council right now.
Correct.
So this is in no way a change to the normal process for creating a zone. This is, in fact, the normal process for creating zones.
That's correct.
And did we consult with the people who are impacted by having these zones?
My understanding is that community meetings were held, yes.
You attended some of them?
Yes, I did.
Yes. So if we don't create these zones, how many polls would we have to do? It would be in the dozens.
It would be more than the dozens, probably the hundreds.
It would be hundreds of polls that we would have to do. What does a poll cost to do?
I don't have the cost of
The
polling.
clerks?
It's something under the purview of city clerks.
Madam Speaker, the cost of a poll is dependent on the number of properties and people on the street and so forth. So it's difficult to
Could you
say
give
what
me an order of magnitude estimate for what it would cost to do 100 polls? Order of magnitude. Is it thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, maybe approaching 1 million?
Yeah, Madam Speaker, I apologize. I couldn't even guess at an order of magnitude, but we could try and find that out quickly.
I'm afraid I'm going to need an answer to that question before we go into the debate, Madam Speaker. So what should I do? I know there was an estimate generated when there were several dozen polls done in another ward recently.
Well,
It was in the hundreds of
staff
thousands.
can get that info. I don't know how long it will take them to get that information.
Well, I'm going to need that. Before I continue my questioning.
Okay, we'll hold the item down. I think we need a quorum call because, I don't know, councillors are not sitting in their seats. I have no idea. We don't have quorum call. Quorum call. It just seems like everyone is just in a different zone today. Quorum call. I like to have members of council sit in their seats.
Councillor Cole, please.
Councillor Cressy, please. Councillor Bailao, please.
Madam Speaker, there are 20 members in the chamber. Quorum is present.
Thank you. Okay, until we get that answer, let's, Councillor Cressy, are you ready with your item?
Yeah. Thank you, Speaker, and with my sincere apologies and thanks to the clerks, I can now deal with two items that are connected on page 3, which is item TE 11.9, alterations to heritage properties, and then I will also be dealing with, on page 4, item CC 13.8, 301 to 319 King Street West. I have an amendment for each to defer consideration until the January 29th meeting of council.
Okay, so if we can put the motion on the screen. Page 3, T 11.9. There it is on the screen. All in favor? Carried. Page 4, CC 13.8. All in favor? Carried. Councillor Fletcher, are you ready with yours?
I have sent a motion, but I'm not sure if it is prepared yet, Speaker. No, this got it. So I do have it. It'll be in the works and it'll be passed very shortly.
Councillor Matlow, are you ready with yours, page 3, T 11.65? Okay, Councillor Matlow. Do we have questions to staff? This is a potential property acquisition for parkland. Questions to staff? Anyone? Okay, Councilor Matlow, do you?
I have a motion.
Do you have questions of staff? No? Okay, to speak.
I have a motion, of which I move.
Receiving for information? Okay, it's on this. Okay, but that's why I'm asking people to sit at their seats so they can follow the agenda. We're at page 3, Councillor Perks, T 11.65, property acquisition for parkland. Councillor Matlow's moving receipt. Yeah, Councillor Matlow, do you want to explain why you're moving receipt? Councillor Matlow.
I'm moving.
Okay, do you want to speak on it and explain why you're moving receipt?
For those who want to understand this, there is a dearth of parkland in the Davisville apartment neighborhood between Davisville and the Mount Pleasant Cemetery. We are working very hard to acquire property that would serve as park space for the neighborhood. We explored this, and it is clear that this is not most likely in the cards. So staff have done their due diligence, and now I'm willing to accept what they're reporting back to us with. And we're going to continue working in every possible way to achieve park space in an area that needs it. So we're receiving the information that they've provided.
Okay. On the motion by Councillor Matlow to receive for information, all in favor? Carried. Do we have Councillor Fletcher's motion yet? Okay, we'll go to page 3, T 11.23, Planning and Study. Councillor Fletcher, did you have any questions?
I don't think there's anybody here to answer those, so I'll just speak.
Do you need the planning
No,
staff?
here is Mr. Linton. I'm just going to ask, because this is, thank you, these won't be hard. This is what we're calling a major station transit, is it assessment, MTSA?
Through the speaker, yes, the area we're looking at around Dundas and Carla is the general location for new transit infrastructure.
Ontario
Major
line,
transit
smart
station
traffic.
area study, yes.
And these are required now, are they not?
In order to conform with the growth plan, the city is proceeding with a review of all lands in proximity to major transit infrastructure, and that is working its way through Planning and Housing Committee, and this is one of them, yes.
And this is two stations are supposed to meet here. Assuming they're built, there's 2 stations to be. What happens if none of them get built? Then is this plan dependent on the building of those stations?
Through the speaker, in general, significant intensification at Dundas and Carla would require... Gerard and Carla would require higher order transit to support that level of density. Without higher order transit, we would not be looking at the scale and the potential.
So we're just trying to get the sequencing right here. Let's say we would do the transit study, the MTSA, and then based on 2 stations meeting, Ontario Line and the Smart Track, RER, and then one of them doesn't happen, or both of them somehow don't happen, would that still be in effect, the planning study?
Through the speaker, I would imagine that we'll take a stage gate approach to the study and to the transit planning, and we'll have to be in lockstep with the, if you will, the security of that transit. We would ultimately condition the density permission on the security of the transit, not unlike the way that we have done that on other large sites across the city. Mr. Chrissy is an example of how we've done that. So the approach that we will take, just to reiterate, is to make sure that we tie the provision of density with the provision of higher order transit.
Right. So we wouldn't approve something that was massive and then everybody starts building and then there's no, that would be a problem.
That would not be good planning.
That would not be good planning. Thank you. And adding affordable housing in, this would be, it's a fairly significant area now, including its Gerard Square, its Riverdale Plaza. There's a lot of commercial it's there already. Would you support, I'm sure, having an affordable housing provision so that right from the get-go we're looking at how to achieve that in that location?
Yes, through the Speaker, we're, as you know, looking at inclusionary zoning citywide, and where we can implement affordable housing provisions in our official plan and ultimately in the zoning bylaw. Tying it to transit, all of that makes sense, so it would make sense at this location.
Would this be considered a large site? The actual commercial site's probably about 9 acres. And when you add across the street, it's probably a 10-acre site. What do we consider a large site?
In the context of affordable housing, it's 5 hectares,
okay.
But we're moving...
12 acres? Or
more or less. We're moving toward more of an inclusionary housing approach, moving away from the large site policy tool that we currently use to more of an inclusionary zoning approach.
So more of a mix and match?
Yes.
Recognizing that that's a fairly large site and we're intensifying things. When was that put first in place, the 5 hectares?
Through the Speaker, the 5-hectare policy dates back to the approval of the official plan by the OMB in 2006.
So we haven't seen the type of 2006 had not yet seen the type of intensification we're looking at along transit lines or other places. Let's just take the Etobicoke Civic Center that we've just approved. That will be heavily intensified at that site.
Through the Speaker, it already has been, and it will continue to be with the provision of higher order transit, making sure that we intensify bringing down the 6 points interchange and making sure that we make those sites available for housing, including affordable housing.
Including affordable. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Cole, questions?
Yes, just a question of staff. I just want to follow up on Councillor Fletcher's questioning. In terms of, you're doing an overview of every major transit hub in terms of the connection between increased densities and the matching with the transit infrastructure. Is that what's going on?
Through the Speaker, yes. As I indicated, we'll be bringing a report to Planning and Housing Committee early in the new year with a work plan for a growth plan conformity, which will be looking at major transit station areas across the city. The way the provision of affordable housing and inclusionary zoning would work is to connect the potential for affordable housing in some of the major transit station areas in conformity with the growth plan. So we'll be bringing that work plan, if you will, and a prioritization framework forward to planning and housing early in the new year.
And how does this mesh in with the new provincial planning directives through 108 and the ripping up of Midtown and Focus and other things? They have a new policy in terms of the need to deploy greater densities within 500 meters of major stations, or what is the new, the latest provincial policy on that?
Again, through the Speaker, it is the growth plan refers to 500 to 800 meters. It's a range.
Okay.
Again, we are bringing a report to Planning and Housing Committee early in the new year that will outline a work plan to conform so that our official plan conforms with the growth plan. It's a 2-year project, and we'll be looking at all of the major transit station areas across the city to make sure that we have the minimum densities, both population and employment densities, that achieve the growth plan targets. And you will see that approach in that report that we bring to planning and housing early in the new year. It will pick up many of the areas across the city that likely already have those minimum densities, and some areas that do not. So all council members will see that initial assessment, and we'll be recommending how we approach that work, which has to be undertaken over the next 2 years.
So what happens with applications that are active now and will be going through processes over the next 2 years? How do we treat them in terms of approval, planning approvals?
Well, I mean, those applications will continue. There are applications that are already being processed or reviewed, and they'll be reviewed on their merit and we'll look at whatever planning framework is in place and applicable in those areas. So, for example, in Yonge and Eglinton or in the downtown, which have recently approved secondary plans, we'll be reviewing those applications in the context of those approved plans.
So it's just hard to keep track.
It is hard to keep track.
Because that's what constantly the question we get asked. Like Yonge and Eglinton, it's with the almost total disregard of our secondary plan approach with Midtown Focus. What's in place right now in terms of a secondary plan?
Through the Speaker, what's in place right now is an approved secondary plan approved by the province in June of 2019. So for applications filed...
That's 405, or what is it?
Official Plan 405, I believe it is, or 406.
406, yeah, okay.
And that is what is in place, and that is what we review applications against that were filed after June, I think it's June the 5th, 2019.
So how many meters are we talking about for being within that new intensification zone? Is it 500 meters, 800 meters? Is there any meters in that secondary plan of where it would be acceptable to have greater densities?
Through the Speaker, we will be assessing, as I indicated, we will be assessing the densities that are currently permitted in proximity to transit stations, 500 to 800 meter range. It's likely that some of those densities that are provided for in Yonge and Eglinton will meet those minimums, but we will do that assessment and we will show councillors in those areas what that assessment looks like early in the new year.
Thank you. Do we have any further questions? Okay, Councillor Fletcher, to speak on your item. Okay, Councillor Fletcher to speak.
Yes, and this is to revise the terms of reference for the Gerard Carla planning study, which was initiated a while ago, and we have, as you all know, had some changes to the relief line. Now it's called the Ontario line, and it's got a different route. And where it's going to come out, we're not sure at that Gerard and Carla, but nonetheless, adding the affordable housing piece into this study, I hadn't done that yet at Community Council, so I just want to thank Mr. Linton for assisting me to get that here. And this study will start, and I was very happy to hear that they have to proceed in tandem, and that we won't have approvals for major density and no transit, because that would be a big problem. And with this, Speaker, I'll simply move it and ask for it to be recorded. Thank you.
So, on the motion, you can put it on the screen. This is on page 3, TE 11.23. All in favor? Carried. Recorded? Sorry. Recorded.
Councillor Wong Tam, please.
Councillor Matlow, please. Councillor Matlow?
The amendment is adopted unanimously, 18 in favor.
Okay, item is amended. All in favor? Carried. Before we continue, I just want to acknowledge the International College students from Tamwood. Welcome to council. I don't know what ward it's in. I don't know. Okay. Welcome. On page 3, T 11.35, Councillor Perks.
Yes, Speaker, I've spoken to the clerk and I think it's ready. I'm just going to move that we defer this to the next meeting. It's become apparent from the debate that a lot of the nuance about how you create a zone and how you poll for a certain street is something that not all members of council are familiar with. So, you know, I've spoken to the mayor and we're going to work to make sure that there's a wider understanding and bring it back in January.
Okay. So on the deferral, on favor? Carried. So on page 3, CC 13.5, 6020 and 6030 Bathurst Street. Councillor Pasternak, do you have questions of staff?
No. Madam Speaker, we need a few more minutes to distribute the motions. There's some confidential attachments, but we'll be releasing them shortly.
Okay, Councillor Pasternak, how about page 4, CC 13.7?
There's motions with each.
25 Fisherville Road.
Okay, I stand corrected. We can release 13.7.
Okay.
I just asked for a recorded vote so I could be recorded in the negative.
Okay, so on page 4, CC 13.7, recorded vote.
Councillor Crawford, please. Councillor Perks.
The item is adopted 16-2.
Page 4, CC 13.9, Councillor Wong Tam, 100 Wellesley Street.
Madam Speaker, I don't have any questions. I am prepared to just move the staff recommendations and the confidential attachment.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, so on page 4, CC 13.9, all in favor? Carried. Councillor Perks, page 4, CC 13.10.
Speaker, on that, I have to speak to the solicitor on that file one more time, and I'm hoping to do that over the lunch period. Well, no, we have all the member motions. That'll take a while. I'm trying to expedite it as quickly as I can.
So, okay, we have a it's just that we're waiting for a couple of councillors to come in. And so that's why I was some confidential attachments. So I would suggest that we recess and come back earlier. Yes, Councillor Grimes.
Can I move a motion that we deal with the member motions right now?
Well, I just mentioned to you, there are members of council that are en route that are coming.
It's let's hold those ones down and deal with the others. That's right. Let's deal with what we can deal with. I move we deal with the member motions. If we have to hold some down for other, but let's keep moving.
No, but they're not here. They
Okay, we'll just deal the ones we can deal with. If we have to hold
Councillor Grimes.
Yeah, that's okay. I'm going to move that motion.
Okay, no. Yeah. Just to let members know that we will still have to come back at 2 o'clock. So, because there's confidential items. Okay, can I have members of council to please take their seats so they know what we're doing here? Yes. So there's a request. Councillor Pasternak, please take your seats. Councillor Perruzza. Councillor Pasternak. Okay, so there's a request. There's a request that we do members' motions now, and then we come back at 2 o'clock. So that's the request. Okay, recorded vote. So we're voting on if we should deal with members' motions now and then come back at 2 o'clock. Recorded vote.
Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor Ainsley.
Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Fletcher, please.
The motion to amend the order paper carries 18-3.
Okay, so members of council can go to the members' motions. We ready? Oh, MM 13.1. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Scarborough Community Council. Two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 13.2. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the General Government and Licensing Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 13.3. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Recorded.
Councillor Pertsa, please.
Councillor Fletcher, please.
The item is adopted 20-2.
MM 13.4. Notice if this motion has been given, this motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 13.5. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 13.6. Notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to reopening of item T 9.9. A two-thirds vote is required to reopen that item. If reopened, the previous council decision remains in force unless council decides otherwise. All in favor of reopening? Carried. On the item, all in favor? Carried. MM 13.7, notice if this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving... Pardon? Okay, all in favor of waiving referral, recorded vote. This one here I've already...
Councillor Linton, please. Councillor Bailao.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded.
Deputy Mayor Manon Wong, please.
Councillor Karygiannis, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.8. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral? So you want to record a vote on each one of them, Councillor Perruzza? Okay, recorded. This is just to register your attendance.
Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Fillion.
Instead of a clock.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Linton, please. Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Karygiannis.
Councillor Fillion, please. Councillor Cole. Councillor Crawford, please. Thank you.
The motion to adopt the item carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.9. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote.
Councillor Holiday, please. Councillor Karygiannis. Councillor Bailao.
Councillor Perks. Councillor Cole, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Karygiannis, please.
Councillor Cole, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1310. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Infrastructure and Environment Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote.
Councillor Bailao, please. Councillor Thompson.
Councillor Perks, Deputy Mayor, thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries 22 to 1.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Thompson, please.
Councillor Crawford, please. Councillor Wong Tam, please. Councillor Cole, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1311. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic and Community Development Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote.
Councillor Mallow, please.
Councillor Perks and Councillor Fillion, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 22 to 1.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Perks and Deputy Mayor Min Wong, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1312. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic and Community Development Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral, recorded vote.
Councillor Cole, Councillor Wong Tam, please.
Councillor Bailao, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, all in favor, recorded vote.
Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Layton, Councillor Cressy, please. Councillor Karagianis and Councillor Fletcher.
The item carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1313. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic and Community Development Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Crawford, please. Thank you.
Councillor Matlow, Councillor Karagianis, please.
Motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Pasternak, please. Councillor Perks. Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Thank you.
The motion to adopt the item carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1314. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic and Community Development Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral?
Councillor Grimes, please. Councillor Wong-Tam and Councillor Cole, please.
Councillor Karygiannis, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Cole, Councillor Perks, Councillor Fillion, and Councillor Wong-Tam, please. Thank you.
Councillor Layton, please. Councillor McKelvey, Councillor Karygiannis.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1315. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. All in favor of waiving referral, recorded vote. Okay, well, we have to introduce it first.
Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Fletcher, please. Councillor Bailao.
Councillor Cole, thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries 18 to 5.
Okay, so Councillor Peruzza would like to hold the item down. MM 13.16. I would really appreciate if members of council are not on their phone, talking on their phone when we're in the chambers and voting. MM 1316. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the North York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. This motion relates to a Toronto local appeal body hearing and has been deemed urgent. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Peruzza, please. Councillor Pasternak. Councillor Cole, thank you.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Peruzza.
Councillor Fletcher and Councillor Ford, please.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please.
The item is adopted, 22 to 1.
MM 1317. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. On the referral, recorded vote.
Councillor Wong-Tam, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Bradford, please. Councillor Layton, Councillor Cressy.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1318. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Executive Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Bradford, Councillor Holliday, please. Councillor Bailao.
Councillor Crawford and Councillor Pasternak, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 22 to 1.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Layton and Councillor Thompson, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1319. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Toronto and East York Community Council. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral.
Yeah.
Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Thompson, please. Councillor Karygiannis, Councillor Matlow.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Ainsley, please. And Councillor Bailao.
Councillor Crawford, Deputy Mayor Min Wong. Councillor Wong-Tam, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 1320. Notice of this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Planning and Housing Committee. A two-thirds vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Bailao, please.
The motion to waive referral carries 20 to 3.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Holliday, please. Councillor Karygiannis. Councillor Bailao, please.
The motion carries unanimously, 22 in favor.
Just one moment. Mayor Tory?
Just on a point of order, I just caught at the last second this was about Midtown and Focus, on which I'd previously declared an interest on account of the fact my wife owns a piece of property in there. So I'm just checking to see, because of the nature of what this is, whether I should have been voting on it. And that, so I voted technically incorrectly, and because I was scrambling as to which button to push on the referral, and so I'm just checking on that, and that's why I stepped out for the vote. So I may want to get up and just fill out the paper and whatever after the fact on just the referral motion.
How can we correct that?
I don't know, but my staff may tell me it's not a problem because it's just a report about the impact of the
Yeah.
council decision.
Okay.
So I just saw it at the last second, and that's why I pushed the wrong button, because 3 people voted against referral, and that's all it is. Yeah. So.
Okay, so.
I don't think so.
We could
Anyway,
fill out.
so.
Yeah. All right. MM 1321. Notice that this motion has been given. This motion is subject to referral to the Economic and Community Development Committee. A 2/3 vote is required to waive referral. Recorded vote to waive referral.
Councillor Crawford, please.
Councillor Layton and Councillor Fletcher, please.
The motion to waive referral carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
Councillor McKelvey, please, and Councillor Bailao.
The motion to adopt the item carries unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.22. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda and is before council for debate. On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Mallow, thank you. Councillor Fletcher, please.
Mayor Tory, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.23, this motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas before council for debate. On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Grimes, please.
Councillor Matlow, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.24. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agendas and is before council for debate. On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Cole, please.
Councillor Cressy, please, and thank you.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.25. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to a vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda as before council for debate. On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Crawford, Councillor Cole. Thank you.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
MM 13.26. This motion has been deemed urgent by the chair. This motion is not subject to vote to waive referral. This motion has been added to the agenda as before council for debate. On the item, recorded vote.
Councillor Perruzza, please.
The item is adopted unanimously, 23 in favor.
To introduce Mayor Tory.
I'm introducing this, and it's urgent, Madam Speaker, because we've made some errors, and I think it's urgent to get an apology out to the communities that have taken notice of the fact that we didn't translate materials properly, and also to make sure that steps are taken right away to make sure this doesn't happen again. When we're the most diverse city in the world, there are responsibilities that go with that, and we've got to make sure we carry those out. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
All in favor? Carried. Councillor Bailao.
Which language was wrong? I just got a complaint about him.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This motion is urgent as there's some changes coming into effect January 1st, 2020, and we need to have a discussion and adapt the ways that we collect development charges.
All in favor? Carried. Deputy Mayor Minawang, we held down, and then after your item, we'll recess for lunch. Page 2, GL 10.4, that you held it down. Do you have questions to staff?
No, I don't. Thank you for holding that down. I'd be the last person to want to keep this council away from breaking for lunch, keeping them away from their lunch. So I had a number of discussions with staff yesterday back and forth. They answered all the questions that I had, so I'm happy to release it.
Okay. On the item, all in favor? Carried. Okay, so yeah, Councillor Perruzza, you waved your hand. What was that?
Oh, I was just saying thank you to you.
Pardon?
No worries, I'll talk to you later.
Oh, okay. Okay, members will, being that it's only, do we want to come back at 1?
No, let's continue.
No, we have other items, Councillor Grimes. I did say that when we did the members' motions, we have to come back after lunch. So because it's 11:30, rather than 2, we come back at 1. Okay? Okay, recess to 1 o'clock.
Good try, Gary.
I got meetings.
Yeah, I have meetings too, right? Like,
Well, it's council. It's a council day. Yeah. Okay, recess to 1. Okay, all in favor of changing the order paper? Okay, members, can I have a motion to change the order paper? We're changing the order paper to come back at 1 rather than 2. All in favor? Recorded vote.
That's right, I thought meetings at 12:30, Speaker.
Okay, so let's come back at 2 o'clock.